All right, hi everyone, and welcome back to our next episode on National Careers Week. Today's theme is sort of discovering careers at sea, and we're being joined by Adam Moran Wrightson, who is currently a planned maintenance system officer. So thank you very much for joining us, Adam. How are you?
No problem, I'm good, thanks for having us.
That's all right. So the purpose of the podcast is just to kind of give any students who are maybe in year 11 or even younger years a bit of an idea of what a career at sea can look like, the pathway through sort of studying at the marine school, and kind of careers I guess you can go into at sea or on shore as well. So first of all, do you want to just sort of introduce yourself and kind of your job role at the moment?
Yeah, so I grew up in Newcastle, and as Danielle said, I'm a planned maintenance systems officer. It's a sort of varying job role. I can be doing all sorts of stuff, but mainly like the main part of my job is looking after the planned maintenance system for the ship management company I work for, which is Bernard Schulte Ship Management. So we have at the Newcastle office around it's approaching 25 vessels at the moment, and that's grown sort of year on, even through the times we're going through at the moment. So it's a very busy role at the moment, having to sort of develop the systems for these new vessels, but really enjoying it.
Brilliant. This might be a stupid question, but I know there's loads of different sort of vessels and then ships you can work on. What do yours do? Is it like people or container ships or?
Yeah, so just as a further background as well, obviously I did my cadetship on like standby safety vessels, like supply vessels in the North Sea, supplying gas rigs, and this is like what the company I'm working for now has been a total departure from that. So now we mainly look after LPG and LNG vessels, with the exception of one car carrier. It's one of the Nissan vessels that we look after as well. But it's mainly like gas tankers as well. So it's been a learning curve joining this company, but
yeah, a bit of a change from what you're used to.
Yeah. I'm happy because I've learned a lot and I've really grown with them. So.
Oh, brilliant! And do you still go away to sea with the company you're at, or is it all sort of based at home?
No, I travel a lot. Obviously, not so much in the last year, but I mean, even last year I went away to Gibraltar to join a vessel at anchor to oversee the. It was changing from one ship manager to us, and I had to oversee the setup of the computer systems on board. Part of my job is just to make sure that everything's installed as it should be, that they're set up as per our company standards. So I did like 3 days away at sea on that vessel. I also did a training visit on a vessel, a container vessel that was managed by our German office. And basically, I joined the ship in Teesport and sailed across to Rotterdam in the Netherlands. I was only on there for 1 day, but just enough time to sort of go through some training with the crew on board.
Sounds interesting. So is this like a role that you've always known you wanted to go into? So when you think back to when you were at school, is this where you imagined yourself now, or is it you just sort of found yourself here? What's your sort of journey been?
Definitely not. I think coming out of school, I was really unsure of what I wanted to do, and I think it got to a point where not so much that I didn't want to push myself to get the grades to get in university, but I didn't see myself benefiting too much without knowing what to do. So I was trying to keep my options as open as possible. And how I actually got into it was I visited an open day at South Tyneside College, because it was the college that was local to me. And I knew absolutely nothing about the whole process of going about getting the Merchant Navy at the time. But I spoke to a few of the companies that were there. And obviously one of the major perks of doing a cadetship is that you come out of it with no debt, you come out of it with all your qualifications, tons of certificates that allow you to go away to sea. And you also get paid a wage when you go through it. And even though it's for most people it'll be quite small, it's great when you go to college, because it means that you can pay for the likes of your halls, or you can pay for your travel to get to and from the college. And as soon as I found out about that, I was like, right, that's me. That's what I want to do.
So
yeah, definitely. So it was me. It was probably South Tyneside College, Ovendale, which got us into it in the first place.
that's really interesting that you didn't actually, because I don't think many people actually know much about the Merchant Navy, do they, like originally? But like you say, once you start and kind of look into it and hear the perks, I guess, of studying, it definitely sort of sounds like a good deal, I guess. So what about your time whilst you were studying then? Did you stay at halls, obviously, at the college?
No, I didn't, because as I say, I'm from Newcastle. I wasn't too far away, but looking back at my time now that I spent there, I kind of wish I did. A lot of, I was in a relatively small class. There was only 8 of us started on the course, because I went down the foundation degree route. So, we're quite close as a group of lads who were going away to college. So I kind of wish I had done. And I think it would have helped with studies, because I know a lot of them in the evenings, they would, especially before big exams and things like that, they would spend time in the living room with little plastic boats on the table and that to go through preparation and stuff like that. I think I missed out on that. And I think going back and going over again, that would be a recommendation that would make anybody who was thinking about going down the same route as I have. But yeah, it's something I definitely missed.
Yeah, oh, that's good. I guess from a day we always wanted to kind of get a few tips for students who, might have been in your position a few years ago, who are kind of thinking about the same sort of route now. So it's good to be able to give us some tips along the way, I guess. What about your time studying then, obviously, in terms of going away to sea as well? How did you find that?
Yeah, that worked really well. Obviously, it's what we class as a sandwich course, because you spend a good period of time at college and then you get given obviously like quite a few months to go away and get your seat time in, and it eases you in quite well, because you start off, you do, I think it's like the biggest section of your college work in the first phase, getting you introduced to it, so you know what the sort of, the tutors help you know what to expect when you go away, and then you go away for I think it's about 4 months. It's normally, if you're on one of the container ships, it's normally like one big trip. For me, it was a few smaller ones, to say, with being on a supply vessel. But it's good, because then you go away, you've got time when you're away as well to sort of process some of the stuff that you've taken in at college, and your tutors help you know what you need to sort of study when you're away. And then you come back, and then a few more months of college, and then it's another really long sea phase to get your 12 months in. That final little bit of the college is all to do with preparing for your oral examination, which is a major part of it.
Brilliant. So how did you find going away then? Is there sort of a typical day when you're away at sea, and is there any tips that you would give students? I guess it kind of feels quite young, doesn't it, if you're going away for so long?
Yeah, it was strange at first. I didn't know well, actually, I say I didn't know what to expect, but quite luckily with my company, they were able to send me on a like a 2-week taster session, the sort of thing. They sent us away on a visit for 2 weeks, where I went away. I got to speak with the crew on board and got to find out what I'd be doing. And I was quite happy coming back from that. But for me, a typical day was, I would get up, and then I would do some work with the lads on deck in the morning. Just learning about the general maintenance of the ships we were working with, because they were they were quite an age, the ships I was sailing on. So learn about that, and then have lunch, and then spend a watch normally with the second mate in the afternoon, or whoever was on watch on that ship. So then that's when you would go through all of the sort of navigation, learning, yes, it's like you learn everything that you need to learn on the bridge. I did quite a lot of chart corrections and stuff like that, and keeping all of the publications up to date, which is a big part of the job. And then it was sort of just that on repeat for for 28 days really, but it worked quite well. You know, it left your time in the evening to sort of finish off any tasks that you had to complete when you were away, because part of it is you get given like a training record book that you've got to take with you, and it's up to you to provide evidence that you've completed each task in the training record book. So the time in the evening allowed for that, and then depending on the ship you want as well, they might have given you a day off here and there to sort of catch up on your work as well, which is really good. But I think from what I've heard from other people who went away, it can vary quite a lot. You know, it can be more deck. You spend more time on deck, or you could spend more time on the bridge. So it just depends. I think it just depends on the crew who's on board, but it works really well.
Oh, brilliant. So is there any tips that you'd maybe give any students then, maybe like who are going away or thinking about studying the course and are concerned about like going away?
The biggest thing to say is don't be concerned about going away. You know, if I could go back and change anything, I think I might have wanted to spend a little bit more time away, if anything. You know, go away on longer trips. It certainly would have helped with sort of like the learning of the passage planning side of things as well, because if you bear in mind that I was on a standby boat that was just sort of around a rig for 28 days and would only go maybe once or twice. Whereas obviously if you're on a container ship, if you're on a tanker or anything like that, you're going from a port to a port all the time. So that would be sort of my main recommendation. As well as that, as I say, just get yourself into, like, throw yourself right into like the whole environment and get knowing your classmates, because they will really help you with, especially with the oral preparation. You need somebody there to sort of bounce off and do flip cards with things like that. And if you're living out in halls, I think that's the main two that I would take away from my time at college, is the two main recommendations.
Brilliant. And then obviously thinking about what you do now is a bit different, isn't it? So I know you mentioned that you go away occasionally, like to do training and that sort of thing, but the majority of your time is spent at home, isn't it? What was your kind of, did you always plan to get a job that was kind of more onshore than at sea, or did it just kind of happen that way?
It just happened in that way. You know, I was unfortunate in the sense that the company I work for, they didn't have a position for me as an officer when I came out my time. So I sort of had to find something onshore to get me by. And it just so happened that when I was in another job, there was a recruiter who actually contacted me through LinkedIn because of the qualifications that I had listed for a job as the a plan maintenance systems officer, so with BSM. So I count myself as quite lucky, and you know, I'm quite proud of the fact that the qualifications I've gained have sort of gained recognition enough to get me a job, without me having to sort of apply or anything.
Yeah, definitely.
And when I got this job, it was a really quick turnaround as well. It was sort of, I had the interview, I had a call about the job on the Monday, I had the interview on the Wednesday, and they offered me the job on the same day.
Amazing.
Which was fantastic.
That's impressive for not even applying for it.
Exactly, yeah. I knew, and to be fair, I hadn't even heard of Bernard Schulte before I joined, but they are a huge company, and I've really enjoyed working for them. You know, the perks of the job are amazing. As I say, I get to travel quite a few places with them, and it's you know, the stuff like, you know, the odd Christmas present and stuff like that. They really look after you. It's a really good company.
It sounds like you've got the best of both. To be fair, you're at home, but you still get like the good trips away, and a bit of time at sea. So it sounds like you definitely have the best of both. Yes. The last thing I wanted to ask you was just, did you ever sort of imagine this is where you'd be when you were at school? And is there anything you wish you'd known? So is there anything that you wish you knew when you were at school, and kind of deciding what you wanted to do next that you kind of didn't know at the time?
Yeah, I think if anything, I've always looked back and thought I could have been through this 2 years earlier if my school knew about the process. I have, at the time, it wasn't something that was really advertised as an option with the school. As I say, I had to go to an open day for it to be, for me to learn about it. So, like, there is you can go in through the I think it's the HND or the HNC route, like 16-year-old. And whereas it can be obviously tough going away from home as a 16-year-old, I always think that if I could go back, I would have done that to get through a couple of years earlier and you know, really start to like push up the ladder and sort of try to work my way through the ranks on board. You know, it's just so happened that I've ended up getting this job and I'm quite happy in this job. That's the reason I'm onshore. But I think if I had been still going away, you know, I would have wanted to sort of work my way up as quickly as possible, and that would have been, you know, getting into it 2 years earlier would have been the best way to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I guess this is the purpose, I guess, of the podcast, is to sort of educate students, I guess, who would have been in your position, but even earlier, like you're saying. There is the opportunity to join sort of the pre-cadetship from 16, so it's good to know that you think it would have been beneficial for you to start even earlier. But I think everything happens for a reason, doesn't it? And you maybe wouldn't be in the position you're in now if you had gone on that. So no, that's really good. And just before we go, any other top tips that you maybe want to give students? And it can be in general, it can be about their career, it can be about surviving at sea, it can be anything.
Yeah, I mean, just when you get into it, obviously to get the sponsorship, you've got to go for an interview with the company. So in my case, that was the Ship Safe Training Group. I believe it's called the SSTG. So I had to go down to Kent for an interview. You know, I was only 17 at the time, and you know, I just figured it was going to be a case of going down and saying, oh, well, I really want to travel and you know, sort of thinking of that side. But there's so much more about going away to sea. You've got to be in the right sort of mindset. So my top tip would be, don't go into the interview saying, you know, you want to go away and travel. You say you're really keen to learn, you're keen to sort of work your way up through the ranks. And it is a really interesting industry. You know, there's really a lot to learn. But all of it's interesting. So just make sure that you seem keen to learn, and that you're keen to go not so much trouble, but you're keen to go away for as long as possible.
It sounds like you've learned from that mistake, Adam.
Yeah, they tend to like that interviews, but it's that would be my top tip for certainly for the interview process.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Oh, thank you very much. It's really interesting. I know I certainly didn't know much about sort of careers at sea or the marine school until I kind of started working in this role. And I think you're completely right. You know, a lot of students don't actually know about the Merchant Navy or different roles within that, and even what it's like to study. So it's been really useful today going through kind of what it's like to study, kind of going away, and also the jobs that you can get afterwards as well. Because I think you always imagine you would just be away at sea, but there's actually so many more positions at home as well, isn't there? So
yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you very much. Hopefully everyone found that useful. We will have a workshop later on today as well, so do join in with that. We also have some posts going out on social media as well regarding different careers that you can get into after you've studied at the Marine School, so watch out for those as well. But thank you very much for joining us, Adam, and hopefully everyone found that useful.